Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 14th episode of the R2 Sense podcast. I'm your host, Fareed, and alongside my co host, Ali Rashid. Today, we will be reviewing Ava Max's debut album, Heaven and Hell, which was released in September 2020.
People say run, don't walk away. She's sweet but a psycho, a little bit psycho.
So this is one of the few episodes where we're doing something which isn't exactly the most mainstream, but it has been highly requested by Fareed, so we will be doing it. But yeah, this is the Ava Max rose to fame from the song "Sweet But Psycho," which kind of got played everywhere, which is part of this album, and so are a lot of other singles. By a lot of singles. But yeah, so the album is kind of a concept album in the sense that it's literally like it's one of those side A, side B albums in which there's a heaven side and a hell side. And uh, in my overall opinion, I like the concept, but I don't think the concept had any real execution because the songs, okay, I get there's some themes which are in the hell part which aren't in the heaven part, but generally I feel like there isn't any like, I mean, it's heaven and hell. It's supposed to be pretty polarizing, but that polarizing aspect between the two sides isn't exactly there.
Yeah, I would agree with you because the heaven side is more like has the same sort of upbeat sound where kind of like every song sounds kind of like the same and is also
Yeah,
produced by the same person circuit. Every song on the record is produced by the same person. So I get he has a certain, style when it comes to his instrumentals. He's also produced songs for Gaga, which also reminds me of songs released earlier in Gaga's career, like the famed Monster or Born This Way. They have the same kind of like
yeah.
electronic elements to those songs.
Those
So,
so try the song literally sounds like you try to water down Born This Way, and you were
yeah.
like, yeah,
One thing where I would be very critical is the songwriting because it has those very generic songwriting with like, for example, songs like Salt, where you're like writing about running out of electrolytes to form tears, or like maybe another song like Oh My God, What's Happening that really reminds me of Gaga's telephone song.
hmm.
So it's kind of like a repetition of the early 2010 songs that I've listened to growing up. And this album would have been fine if it was released back then, but I think Ava Max is trying to create this nostalgia for her audience, but that really didn't allow us to like go back into that era and sort of experience that again, but rather she tried to twist it with the modern pop music, but that didn't go well. I again, like you said, the concept was really good. It could have been executed better, especially with those two sides. I feel like Hell should have included some ballads as well to sort of balance
Yeah,
this out and
that's right.
show a little more
Okay, that's the
diversity.
other thing that okay, the thing is pop music is hard to break into right now. There's so many artists and there's so many female pop artists that who are trying you have to look to do different things. And the problem with her is that her whole album is so heavily EDM and so heavily auto tune and
Yeah.
machine based that there's times where you're like, okay, can I get a verse of just singing at some point in her songs, and the few songs which do have it, they sound better. I do admit there's some songs whose production is really catchy, there's some songs whose melodies are catchy, but they still miss that, that original aspect that you have to view. I mean, one example that comes in my head, there's this song, I think it's called Call Me Tonight, in which the chorus starts with "if I don't" or "if you don't," and the way she says it is almost exactly the way how "Don't Start Now" starts. "Don't Start Now" please chorus starts. Like even the melody and the falsetto is
Yeah.
almost the same. So there's stuff like that in which there's so much music these days and so many artists putting out songs. Like even artists like Taylor, who used to have 2 year gaps between every album, now she's releasing music like anything because she knows it's really hard to compete with the amount of music that's being put out.
Yeah. So with that, we'll be starting with our top three songs. Ale, what's your third favorite song of the record?
My third favorite song for of the record is Kings and Queens.
All the kings had their queens on the throne. We will pop champagne and raise a toast to all of the queens who are fighting alone. Baby,
I think that this song had a nice concept. The start of the song, especially because the first two tracks I really didn't like at all. The first two tracks in the Heaven side, so I started listening to that first. I don't know if that's the actual order, but yeah. But then Kings and Queens came on, and that's like the opening chorus. You know, it has that choir element. It was instantly like, okay, this song is different. The only reason the song is number three is because the lyrics start to let it down after a while. They start to get generic. This of her overuse of the word baby in every song is like very annoying. But the chorus and the bridge about the chess moves, like it's nice. She had some ideas. She could have put them a little better, and it would have been a really, really good song. But still, a good song and a catchy tune.
Yeah, my third favorite is also Kings and Queens. What I really liked about this is it's more like an anthem aimed to sort of talk about equality in a way. So that whole concept that about having that equality theme as a sort of anthem because it's like an anthemic, it has that sort of anthemic vibe to it. I like that concept, but again, over time, the lyrics started to get repetitive. The verses in itself were not very long. They were just like very short verses. So you were hearing the chorus over and over again. And like you said, I loved the bridge about chess. So yeah, she had an idea, but to put it as perfect as it could have been, that wasn't the case. It wasn't executed that well. But
Yeah.
I would like consider it being the second track on the album and having that sort of upbeat opening to it after Heaven's instrumental. That was something that really felt good.
Yeah. Okay, so for my second pick, it's Who's Laughing Now. Uh, I I think this song I think is the catchiest on the album for me. Like its chorus got stuck in my head first time after I listened to it. It is more original than the other stuff on the album. Like it has, you know, I think like just the ha 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 part is something that you could maybe brand as an Ava Max trick later. I will say she has very smart hooks, right? She's good at making, even though they're not lyrics, but her like her hook at the end of her choruses, or even the sounds that she makes or uses lingo at the end of her songs, they're catchy. So I'll give her that. And so I think for me, the reason that Who's Laughing Now is number two is because it was one of the like better, catchier pop songs, which did check those boxes for me in the album.
So for me, my second favorite song would be uh, Take You to Hell. Probably because mainly of how the song opens. It's right after Torn, which is like she's stuck between heaven and hell. And when the song sort of opens, like starts, it has a very different vibe to it. And I think this is the only song on the hell side that has that sort of vibe to it.
Just got it. If you wanna treat me right, I'll take you to heaven every night. But God forbid you leave me by myself. I'll take you to hell, take you to hell. If
A more dramatic opening, especially when, she sings to remind me of like the movie Annabelle, in which she sings that in order to la 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 la, sort of in a more demonic way,
Yeah.
because that song truly captured the feeling of the hell era. So I think it stayed more true to the album's name. The other songs, like even I think So Am I, didn't actually mean
Yeah,
to go on
honestly, the
hell.
health side seems the health side seemed out of touch. Like at least the heaven side had cohesiveness somewhat.
Yeah.
It had
I
a
mean, in
similar
Hell's
song
Side,
with
there
the
were
back.
like So Am I, even Salt, and I think one more song, Rumors. They didn't have that sort of hellish thing to them.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been better if that stayed on Heaven.
Speaking of the song Torn, I was so hoping that the song would be so good because the minute I saw the lyric video thumbnail and even the name Torn, I knew that this is going to be her attempt at, bridging the two
Yeah,
sides of the album. But it fell short. Like that song shouldn't have been entirely, about maybe a relationship. It should have been more about her maybe, and at least have more lyrics which implied the fact how torn she was between two sides of herself rather than
that's
just
just
throwing in
mentioned
I'm
in,
torn
in the
between heaven
bridge.
and hell.
I'm torn between heaven and hell. That's the
Yeah,
only
I mean,
part
she
where it's
threw
mentioned.
that in right now. It shouldn't have felt like that was forced. Like, again, the perfect example is Taylor waited a whole album, and in Gold Rush, when she says, "My mind turns your life into folklore,"
Yeah,
doesn't seem forced that she just wanted to throw that reference in. So again, like this album had pretty good concepts and it is bold for an artist. For I think this is her debut album. So
yeah,
to start off with, like I'm going to have this side A, side B, very set theme album. But I just hope that if she does go for more theme albums, and she does seem like a kind of a, like Gaga, she seems like a type of a theme type in which she's going to change her, like even her appearance with LP album.
yeah.
So if she does do that, then I hope that the next time she has, maybe she just gets on more co-writers who can help her because she with planning this stuff out.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to get to our favorite songs. I think, yeah. Okay, so my favorite song on the album was "Oh My God, What's Happening."
Oh my God, what's happening? Look what you done me. I gotta.
Again, I think this song had. I actually didn't even mind the lyrics to this song. It was a good song to be fair. It had uh again, it's very catchy. It uh the verses flow very nice. It's a nice new melody. It didn't feel copied from anywhere. Also, it had less robotic production. The
Yeah.
chorus, you could actually hear her voice. It wasn't so heavy synth pop influence. So I think that combined with the feel of the song, it even suited the whole heaven aesthetic. I felt like, I mean, it felt like, that whole rush and stuff that she was trying to add with stuff in like Tattoo and Naked. Like, it didn't really bend in there, but I do think that it hit the mark in this song. So yeah, that was my favorite song. Yeah.
So my favorite song is like the song that gave her all that fame, Sweet But Psycho. And I love how she ended the album in a strong way. It didn't start in a strong way, but it definitely ended in a strong way with keeping Sweet But Psycho as the last track. I like everything about Sweet But Psycho, the beat that comes in, and the whole concept of the psycho part that sort of fits the album. And I would say that this is a concept that's been used multiple times by multiple artists, like Blank
Yeah,
Space,
Blank
like
Space.
by Taylor, or even like uh, songs by Gaga in art pop as well, where they take on that psycho personality within them. So I just felt that originality was not a priority for Ava Max,
Yeah,
considering each of her songs really had an element of some other artist's music.
yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, I can see that she didn't care about originality or having people know her by the music she makes. Because
Yeah, I mean,
instantly, when
I
you
guess
listen
what
to
I see
any
with
one of
Ava
her
Max is that
songs,
she's that type of droplet artist, like Katy Perry used to be. Okay, she's just going to make a pop sounding song and she's going to release it and hope it does well on the charts. That's my view on her. She's not putting a lot of thought into the cohesiveness or the originality of her music. She's making a catchy song and she's putting it out.
yeah, you could judge that by the number of singles she released. Like she was just like single, single, single. And I think that is where it fell short. She didn't plan properly for her debut album because ultimately all her singles had to go on the track list anyway. So I don't think she planned out the whole heaven or hell thing quite perfectly as she could. Because again, it wasn't that cohesive or it wasn't even that musically diverse. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
like
think
the
the
fact there
main
was
thing
no
that brought her
ballad.
down was the
Otherwise,
consistency.
any album has a sort of ballad. Even with Future Nostalgia, you have the lead single being Don't Start Now wasn't that sort of pop sounding sound. It was a rather slow sound compared to
Yeah, I mean,
other.
look, future nostalgia is it also had a very specific sound, right?
Yeah.
It had like that
I mean,
disco
that
pop,
was also
and
a concept album with those
yeah,
sort of future sort of thing.
yeah, those future and bringing back those disco songs in a time. But she still like you look at Don't Start Now and Levitating, and then songs like Love Again, which is the recent latest
Yeah.
single that she released of it. They don't sound similar. I mean, they do sound like they're from the same album, but they don't sound like they're the same song. Same thing happened with 1989. The whole album was based on 90s pop, but there's
Yeah, but it
songs that
had
she played.
every song had its own personality in a way, its own separate instruments, like how
Yeah,
clean starts and how, all you had to do was stay.
yeah,
Like
stuff like that.
every
Even if
song
it
had
was
its
little
own
songs,
sound.
even if it was a few songs in the album somewhere, I think Torn would have been the best opportunity to do this. If she couldn't think of anywhere else, a song like Torn would have been the perfect opportunity to maybe just make it a ballad, make it stripped down, make it not sound like either of the two sides of the album. Something which would have been, when you're listening to an album start to finish, that you need something different. But again, that's why I feel like that wasn't her goal at all. Her goal wasn't to create an album that you listen to start to finish. Her goal was
Yeah.
just to make a bunch of songs, and you know what, they worked out in this style, so let's just put them on an album. I wouldn't be surprised if she looked at the title Sweet but Psycho and then decided, okay, Heaven and Hell, Sweet and Psycho
Yeah,
works.
she came out with the health side first, and then Beach Me, there were like a few heaven sides, but then again, she released singles related to health. So yeah, if we're like seeing, like I see her as a growing artist like Gaga, because like I said, her songs sound awfully similar to Gaga and even to like Dua Lipa for that matter.
Yeah,
So one thing is that I guess she's trying to find her voice. She's constantly releasing music, and but if you are constantly releasing music, you should at least try to experiment with new sounds, and you should try to find your own voice in a way so that when people listen to her songs, they don't like say, oh, I've heard another song like this before. They should
yeah,
be like,
exactly.
that's her song.
Yeah,
So that's something I guess I would like. I like her vocals though, because even in the parts where it wasn't autotune, you could like, even with her performances, I've seen one or two for the Amazon Music type thing, but her vocals are pretty similar to those studio sessions. Not all of them, not the parts where it's autotuned, but they are
yeah,
quite similar. So her vocals are pretty strong. They aren't that sort of low voice that you can carry that you see with female artists. It's a quite strong sound. So I would like for her to sort of experiment and find her voice in that, and possibly hire, like you said, more co-writers, and sort of not just keep on releasing music, but like if you need to just like take a break, plan some stuff out, and release a more cohesive album. But
yeah.
she's
I
not
mean,
going to do that
that's
because
completely.
her second album is being released in 2021. So
I mean, again, I get why artists are rushing these days. Every artist, even artists like The Weeknd, he just released an album. He started somewhat promo for his next one. They're starting on, other than the artists like Adele and Beyonce, who have so much royalties and so many platinum albums at this point, or that they don't really need the money anymore. Other and they don't really care. I mean, they don't really care about the charts or the awards anymore. They're above
and they
that
don't
stuff.
care about the fans.
Yeah. Well, other than them, You kind of need to keep on releasing music these days, I guess. But I still think that she should take time before her album. Maybe she can do a few like single collabs with other artists and stuff like that. But she should take time before she makes a proper comeback, because people really judge your sophomore album a lot too. Getting your debut album wrong isn't rare, but Harry Styles, Taylor, Dua Lipa, all of these people had amazing sophomore albums. So if she can hit
Yeah.
that mark, then she can redeem herself a lot as an artist, and maybe go back to that sweet but psycho level of success that she had, which she didn't have for the rest of the album.
Yeah. One thing that I'm looking forward to, I don't know if she does that, is a concert of this concept album because like Billie Eilish is back on tour, Harry Styles is also touring soon. So when I think about Heaven and Hell as a sort of concert, it has a lot of potential where you can have a sort of opening act with that heaven sort of vibe. So I see this album as having a lot of potential in its touring area. But that's another thing if people get to tour because of COVID. But
Yeah. So,
concert
yes.
albums generally have a better tour, like we could see with Reputation. How there was one thing I was also excited for Loverfest, because again, each album has its own sort of vibe to it, and this is one album where you get that vibe, but the songs aren't kind of like in that correct space where they
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I guess that goes down to our overall review on Ava Max and her new album. So, with that, we hope you guys enjoyed. That was our 2 cents on Ava Max's Heaven and Hell.